And speaking of books, Mark, you're the book guy because you're on the films.
This is true. I'm excited about this one. Even
you've heard about the Secrets of the Jedi, right?
Yes, I have. Author Marc Sumerak, and it's coming from publisher Insight Editions. What gets me concerned, though, is that Luke Skywalker is going to be our guide to this book, and I'm just like, really, I'd be excited if this was Legends Luke, a guy that actually knew how to use the Force in more ways than just killing himself. But the Luke that we get in canon, I'm like, this book is not going to be great because he's going to be all like, and in the end, screw the Jedi. We should not support their kind. We will never see their kind again because I'm going to go off and I'm going to go die on a little planet with some penguins, man. Like, I don't know. That's not my hashtag, not my Luke.
What the heck are you talking about?
No, but I'm excited about this book.
They're not going to do that.
No, they're not.
Yes, I get where you're going or whatever, but wow, that came out of nowhere.
No, I'm excited about this book. I'm just not so excited that Luke's the one narrating it because I'm a fan of the Jedi, and I'm getting the feeling from The Last Jedi that Luke is not.
So so it's a guide through the Jedi, the history and the secrets of the Jedi from Luke's point of view.
So basically it's like very salty and sarcastic. Is that what you're expecting?
Well, like Sumerak says, he says, for this particular project, I think the unique perspective flows naturally from our beloved narrator, which sounds good, right? And then he goes, Luke Skywalker. Sure, we all know his epic story by heart, but the Luke is writing this particular tome is a long way from that optimistic farm boy he was when his journey began. I wonder what he's like. Maybe it's closer to what we see in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Because of that.
That does sound not very fun.
Right? And he says because of that, he's able to look past the glorified stories of the Jedi of old to find the truth about the Order, no matter how difficult it may be for those reading to hear. So with that in mind, we were able to examine the different aspects of the Jedi Order from an angle that cut through any ancient legends, allowing us to examine why the Jedi needed to exist and why they were destined to end and whether or not they could or should rise again. So, I mean, just the narrator aspect and the angle they're going to play here because of where The Last Jedi's put Luke, that's the only thing about this book that I'm kind of like, that's not exciting. Learning more about the Jedi in general is very exciting to me, especially when you consider the fact that, like, the Sith, they haven't really locked down anything about the Sith aside from there's a rule of two, Darth Bane established it, and the Sidious came from it. I mean, we don't know if they're Sith species or if they were just a branch off the Order. I mean, that really hasn't been locked in. So I'm looking for any kind of insight off of that. But the way that they talk about Luke being the narrator in this, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of shade and snark thrown at the Jedi. And that's just something I'm not really excited about with the new direction of Star Wars. I'm really hoping that, Rise of Skywalker changes that we actually get to see some Jedi rise out of the ashes of what Luke did to the Order. Because right now, Luke having his hands on the Order has been probably the biggest thing to bash on the Jedi since Jason Solo or Ben Solo.
And that, I mean, I am with you. That in itself does not sound very fun. Like, I think that's a pass for me. And it sounds like, and we know that they've done it in the past, Alphabet Squadron, where it's like, oh, hey, this started as a joke, and then we just decided to do it.
Right.
So this is on StarWars.com. Have you seen some of the pages that they put on?
Yeah, so like they got one about The Last Jedi. It says, after the Empire fell and the Sith Lords were vanished, I had great hope for the future of the Jedi. I came to believe that if a single Jedi could help bring balance back to the Force, then perhaps a restored Jedi Order could maintain that peace and prevent the dark side from ever regaining a foothold on the galaxy. So I scouted worlds that remained that had any remaining Jedi techs and gathered up a new class of apprentices under my tutelage. I was playing the role of Jedi Master, and just the fact that he talks about playing a role, it's like, come on, Luke, you let me down, boy. He says, but that wasn't a title I had formally earned. It was one that I would soon prove I didn't deserve. It's like, oh man, Luke, like this is totally Ben Kenobi, like kicking himself when he lost Anakin all over again. It's like, that was, I think, one of the cool things about the prequel trilogy, though, is like I got to see Ben when he wasn't just a broken man who, did all that. To see Luke broken like that breaks me, man. It breaks me.
It's kind of surprising they did go with this direction because of all the backlash that, you know, a lot of fans have said they don't like how Luke is represented in The Last Jedi. And then someone sat around in a room and said, let's do a book about the secrets of the Jedi and have Luke complain about them and be all
to a
depressed.
degree, though, I mean, that is what they did, though, back. Well, they used to do that even with Legends. I mean, think about like the Essential Guide to the Force and stuff. It was all presented like it was Tion, and, you know, they were looking at the stuff, and here's a passage from Master Skywalker, and he would talk, and then Leia would have a section, and Jaina would have a section, and it was presented in that kind of way. So, like, you know, doing that makes sense, especially if Luke is the only one that we, the viewers, know of. I mean, there could have easily been a Jedi historian in his group that Ben killed, and they could have introduced that character, but because they have kept all that information hidden, they haven't told us that yet, we wouldn't cared about that character. So, I mean, I do get why they made it Luke, but because of the direction of where Luke goes, it's like, I don't see this being a cheer for the Jedi type of narrative from Luke.
No.
Also, there's one thing that's bothering me too here. Some of this artwork frustrates me, specifically the shot of Ahsoka.
I'm hunting.
Oh, I didn't see that. Hold on.
So it has several of them, like the Jedi Masters and Knights.
Yeah.
If you look at Ahsoka, look at her, what would basically be her left lightsaber blade.
Yeah.
That's not the right angle.
Like the only way that angle actually works is if she's holding the very end of the bend and is just letting it bend all funky.
But weird. It would slash through her butt.
Right?
That is bad. That's not how you art.
Well, maybe
they all went safe on the Jedi, though.
But did Luke do the art in the book? That's, I mean,
you know, it probably. I mean, he had several years on the island to learn how to.
Right.
It is interesting, though, that Luke would find so much information about Ahsoka Tano. Makes you wonder if he actually ran into her at some point. Probably not, though. He would have mentioned it. Unless they're going to be like, well, he didn't think about that when he was writing this book because, well, you know how publishing works. That book didn't come yet.
True. He couldn't get the rights.